In a world full of challenges, where the mind faces invisible storms and the heart endures trials that seem insurmountable, there exists a forgotten key that can unlock every door: the perfect treatment. This is no ordinary method, no fleeting recipe, but an eternal, profound, and transformative principle revealed by one of the great masters of mind and spirit, Joseph Murphy. Prepare to discover a power that transcends the limits of time and space, a power capable of healing, prospering, and harmonizing every aspect of your life. This text will not only show you how to access the infinite wisdom within your subconscious, but will also guide you to the sacred art of scientific prayer and true faith. Listen closely. Open your mind and heart, because you are about to receive knowledge that can change everything. The perfect treatment for anything is here, and the time has come to make it yours. This book is not written for the beginner in mental laws, nor for those who seek quick signs or instant formulas. This book is born for you, the one who has walked the path, who has affirmed with devotion, who has visualized with detail, who has prayed with fervor, who knows the techniques, the principles, the formulas. And yet, there is a point you have not been able to reach. You have done what must be done, and still the result has not appeared. This book begins where the others end, at that closed moment when there is nothing more left to do. It is here where many surrender, believing that the law has failed, that the treatment has not worked, that God has remained silent. But the truth is different. It is not that the law has failed, it has been misunderstood. The human mind, accustomed to controlling, insists, repeats, observes, and, in doing so, obstructs the invisible flow that has already begun its work. Mental action has its time, but so does spiritual rest. When one acts too much, one interferes. When one knows how to step back, one allows. This book teaches you how to allow. Here you will learn the final secret that unites the great sages of spiritual thought of the 19th and 20th centuries, the exact combination between clear impression and complete surrender. Thomas Troward called this phenomenon the law of reversed effort, in which every deeply assumed thought must produce its effect once sealed. Émile Coué understood this in his treatments with patients. It was not the repetition that healed, but the moment when the mind believed effortlessly. Ralph Waldo Emerson hinted at it in his essays. Nature never hurries, and yet everything is fulfilled. And the Bible sums it up with the most direct wisdom. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Throughout these pages you will discover that the final act of true mental treatment is not to repeat a phrase, but to withdraw with inner peace. It is not to affirm louder, but to surrender with certainty. It is at that point, when you stop pushing, when the urgency ceases, when you no longer chase the result, that the result draws near. Not because you did more, but because you stopped interfering. This is the key. This is the teaching many ignore because of its subtlety, yet it holds the highest power of all, the creative rest. I will not offer you new formulas in these pages, but rather a deeper understanding of what you already know. I will invite you to look at the process from another height, from the point where insisting is no longer needed, but where faith is lived. For truly, I tell you, when there is nothing else left to do, that is when you must trust the most. And that silent confidence, not watchful, not anxious, is the final sign that the treatment has been heard. This book does not seek to convince you. It seeks to remind you of what you already knew. The law does not fail. It only waits for you to withdraw in peace. The perfect treatment: peace, image, and surrender, based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. Mental treatment is not repetition, it is impression. Mental treatment does not consist in repeating phrases as if they were magic formulas. It is not verbal insistence that transforms, but the spiritual impression left upon the subconscious soul. Many believe they must repeat an affirmation hundreds of times for it to take effect, as if the subconscious were a stubborn child that must be convinced by persistence. This is not only an error, but also a way of sabotaging the spiritual power that resides within you. Your subconscious does not respond to effort, it responds to impression. Scientific prayer, as I have taught for decades, is not supplication, nor ritual repetition. It is a creative act. It is planting an image in the fertile furrow of the soul. In Mark 11:24 we are given the supreme principle. Therefore I say unto you, whatsoever things ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. It does not say repeat many times or strive until it happens. It says, believe that you have received. This is the essence of effective mental treatment, to impact the subconscious once with absolute certainty. Thomas Troward, whom I have always considered one of the greatest metaphysical thinkers, spoke clearly about the law of reversed effort. This law teaches that the sought mental result is not attained by tension but by reversing the current of thought from desire to possession. Troward wrote, "The action of the mind must be from conception to realization, not from lack to effort. If you treat from the idea that you do not yet have it, you are only reinforcing the idea of lack. But if you treat from the conviction that it is already done, the subconscious accepts it as a command. Think of the act of planting a seed. The farmer does not dig up and rebury the same seed 100 times a day. He does not repeat the physical act over and over. True sowing is done once, at the right moment, with trust in the law of growth. The one who practices mental treatment must learn this same attitude. He cannot be watching the seed constantly, asking whether it has already sprouted. That is doubt, and doubt unearths what has been planted. One well-made prayer, one affirmation impregnated with conviction, accomplishes more than 1,000 mechanical repetitions without faith. A man once came to me in distress because he had been affirming for months, "I am prosperous, I am successful," yet he remained in bankruptcy. I asked him, "How many times a day do you repeat it?" He replied, 50, maybe more. Then I told him, "There is the problem. You do not need to repeat it 50 times, you need to believe it once." I taught him how to relax deeply, visualize a check with his name, feel the emotion of prosperity already accomplished, and then release it in peace. He did this that night. 2 weeks later, he received a job offer with double the salary. The impression had been clear, and the law responded. Jesus himself, the supreme model of mental treatment, never insisted verbally. His prayers were brief, silent, and always from the consciousness that it was already done. Before raising Lazarus, he simply said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." John 11:41. He gave thanks before seeing the result. This is the secret, giving thanks from the certainty that the invisible is already real. Repetition without this conviction is mere chatter, but a single affirmation from the Absolute is like fire in the soul. Your conscious mind is the scribe. Your subconscious mind is the parchment. What you write with emotion is engraved. Empty words are not enough. They must be accompanied by feeling, by images, by conviction. A word without emotion is like ink without ink. It leaves no mark. That is why I repeat again and again. Treat only when you are prepared. Do not enter into prayer with hurry or anxiety. Prepare the ground first with inner silence. Relax, breathe, quiet the senses. Then when you feel the mind at rest, cast the seed. A clear, specific affirmation, charged with faith. One single time, and then rest. It is common for many sincere Christians to repeat prayers like mechanical mantras. They ask and ask without ceasing, but they have not understood that the secret is not in quantity, but in quality. Jesus did not speak many words, he spoke few and with power. In the Gospels we do not find anxious repetitions, but precise declarations. Rise, take up your bed and walk. Your faith has made you whole. Be clean. Each of these phrases was not an attempt, it was a command. The subconscious responds to clear commands, not to pleading cries. Do you want healing? Do not pray 100 times, "I am healthy." Close your eyes. Imagine your body full of vitality. Feel the joy of health. Affirm calmly, "The infinite intelligence of my being repairs and restores every cell now." And then remain in silence. Let the image descend. Do not repeat. Do not insist. Do not interfere. Do you desire prosperity? Do not repeat obsessively, "I am rich." Make a mental treatment. Visualize your account full. Hear within you the banker's voice congratulating you. Feel the peace of knowing you have more than enough. Then affirm with conviction, "My supply is infinite. I am surrounded by abundance now." And rest in that vision. I have seen more miracles with one well-made prayer than with thousands of affirmations repeated by routine. The subconscious mind does not need convincing. It needs impact. And impact is achieved with clarity, emotion, and certainty. As Troad said, clear thought and confidence in the law are enough for the law to operate. Do not enslave yourself to repetition. Free yourself in certainty. Therefore, dear reader, take this principle seriously. Your word is law to your mind when it is spoken from inner authority, not from doubt, not from effort, not from despair. Mental treatment is a spiritual impression, not a mental battle. It is a sowing, not a struggle. Learn to treat once, but treat well. One clear impression is worth more than 1,000 confused attempts. Just as the seed is sown once, and then the harvest is awaited, so must your treatment be firm, precise, complete. Do not pray just to pray. Do not repeat just to repeat. Do not affirm out of fear. Affirm from certainty. Declare from faith. Imagine from fulfillment, and then release. What is sown with faith does not need supervision, only trust. Remember this truth. The subconscious does not respond to many words, but to one single word charged with faith. Engrave this teaching upon your soul, but do not repeat your treatments without conviction. Sow with power, and then let the Lord do its work. For it is written, "Believe that you have received, and it shall be yours." Mark 11:24. Chapter 2. The state of fertile soil. How to prepare your subconscious before treating. Before a farmer sows the seed, he tills the earth, softens it, waters it. He does not cast the grain upon dry stones, nor upon a field hardened by drought. He knows that without preparation no seed will sprout. In the same way, the soul must be cultivated before attempting any mental treatment. This is where many fail. They achieve nothing, not because the affirmation was incorrect, nor because the mental image lacked clarity, but because the inner state was not ready to receive. The subconscious does not open to effort, it opens to rest. It does not respond to anxiety, but to stillness. The subconscious mind, that vast intelligence that governs your inner life, acts like the soil. And like the soil, it does not choose, reason, or object. It simply accepts. But there is one fundamental condition. It only receives what is planted when its surface is calm. It cannot be impressed in the midst of chaos. Nothing can be engraved amid mental noise. That is why it is essential to prepare the ground before treating. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." This is not a decorative phrase nor a pious metaphor. It is a precise formula. Stillness is the condition that precedes divine knowledge. In other words, you cannot know the presence within you until you silence all other inner sounds. Most people want the subconscious to obey, yet they continue feeding it with hurry, fear, agitation. Imagine a surgeon operating during an earthquake or a sculptor carving marble in a moving carriage. Impossible. In the same way, it is impossible to impress your subconscious unless you first quiet it. The surface mind, which we call the conscious mind, is full of contradictory thoughts. It is crowded with logic, doubt, analysis, and noise. That mind must be calmed before speaking to the deeper storehouse. How is this achieved? Through ancient techniques long forgotten in modern haste. The great healers of the 19th century, like Emile Coué, knew that slow, rhythmic, deep breathing induced a state of subconscious receptivity. What they practiced without medical terminology, science now confirms. When you breathe slowly, the parasympathetic nervous system activates, blood pressure lowers, the heart rhythm harmonizes, and the mind enters alpha waves, the frequency of light sleep, which is exactly the gateway to the subconscious. I recommend that before any mental treatment, you take at least 5 minutes to prepare the ground. Sit in silence. Close your eyes, place your hands on your thighs, or let them fall at your sides. Breathe deeply, hold for 2 seconds and exhale slowly. Think of nothing, just observe the rhythm of your breath. Let the mind empty. If a thought appears, do not fight it. Let it dissolve like mist in the sun. As the body enters rest, so does the soul, and then in that moment of balance you will be ready. Then, and only then, treat. A woman once came to my office in Los Angeles. She complained that none of her affirmations seemed to bear fruit. "For months," she said, "I've been saying, 'My husband changes. He becomes kind. He is full of love.' But nothing changes." I asked her, "How do you feel when you say it?" She replied, "Sometimes angry, sometimes crying, sometimes fearful." I told her, "Then you are not treating. You are shouting. I taught her first to enter a state of rest. 3 times a day she was to breathe, relax, and only when she felt peace, affirm with serenity, "The peace of God reigns in my home." Within less than a month, her husband began to show signs of tenderness. What had changed was not the phrase, but the inner soil. Now her affirmation had ground in which to take root. Always remember this truth. The subconscious is like a deep lake. It only receives what is cast into it from a calm shore. If you are agitated, you are throwing stones, not seeds. If you are anxious, your mind rebounds affirmations instead of absorbing them. One single affirmation spoken from rest is worth more than 1,000 uttered in anguish. That is why Jesus would go up the mountain alone before praying. He needed silence. He needed inner communion. He did not treat from haste. He treated from presence. Many think that faith is a state of euphoria. It is not. True faith is calm. It is inner rest. It is certainty without emotional frenzy. It is what the Roman centurion showed when he said, "Only say the word and my servant shall be healed." He did not need to see or feel or confirm. He knew. That is fertile soil. Do you desire health? Do not repeat phrases in fear. Breathe, relax, feel your body floating, and then affirm, "The infinite wisdom of my subconscious restores my health now." But say this only when you feel peace. Do not treat if there is fear. Do not pray if there is hurry. First pacify the soul. Are you seeking a solution to a conflict? Instead of rushing to visualize with a mind on fire, stop. Return to the psalm. Be still. Place yourself in inner silence. Let the surface mind quiet down. Then, let fall into the serene waters of your subconscious the image of the desired outcome, like one who lets a flower drift upon a pond. Watch it float, feel its beauty, give thanks, and end there. Preparation is more important than the treatment. This is a law. It is useless to pray if your mind is at war. It is useless to affirm if you are in struggle. Jesus did not treat when irritated. He first withdrew, sought solitude, grew quiet. Then he spoke the word, and it was done. To close this chapter, let me give you a practical instruction. Before any treatment, perform this simple ritual. Sit in a quiet place. Silence your phone, your thoughts, your urgencies. Close your eyes and breathe deeply for 3 minutes. Repeat silently in your mind, "I am now at peace. I am in communion with the divine." Only when you feel true peace, visualize your desire fulfilled. Affirm once with certainty and moderate emotion. Then return to silence. Remain still for 1 or 2 minutes. Feel that something invisible has already moved. Open your eyes, think no more about it. This is true prayer. This is real treatment. Every repetition after this is unnecessary, because if the soil is fertile, one single seed is enough. Remember, the subconscious only accepts what enters in a state of rest. Do not assault it with urgency. Do not flood it with words. Prepare it with silence, with breathing, with serenity. Then you will understand the meaning of the phrase, "I am that I am." Chapter 3, The Art of Treating Once and Doing It Well. The greatest mistake of those beginning in mental treatment is thinking they must insist many times in order to obtain results. This not only reveals ignorance of the spiritual law, but also betrays a lack of trust in the subconscious intelligence, which begins to act the moment the word has been sown with precision. What you need is not to multiply treatments, but to learn to do one single treatment, yet do it with total clarity, genuine emotion, and absolute confidence. Treatment is not cumulative like a pile of bricks. It is an act of creation, and like every creative act, it requires concentration, vision, and rest. You are not heard for your many words, as the Master taught. You are heard for the faith with which you sow the idea. Matthew 13 contains a key teaching for all who desire to understand this law, the parable of the sower. There it is described how the same seed produces different results depending on the ground upon which it falls. Some fall on stony places, others among thorns, and only a portion falls on good soil. Jesus is not speaking about wheat. He is speaking about ideas. Your mental affirmation is the seed. Your calm mind is the soil. But what determines the result is not how many seeds you cast, but where the one that takes root actually falls. I have known people who say, "I affirmed my health 100 times this week." I respond, "And how many of those times were you truly convinced? For if the seed falls among the stones of doubt, it will not sprout. If it falls among the thorns of haste, anxiety, or constant symptom checking, it will be choked. Only if it falls into the fertile field of a convinced mind, in rest, in inner silence, will the seed yield 100-fold. Émile Coué, the famous French therapist, understood this principle with a clarity that few have attained. His method, often misunderstood, was not simple hypnotic repetition. It was directed impression. He taught his patients to say, "Every day in every way I'm getting better and better," not with force, but in a state of half-sleep, when the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious is most accessible. Coué did not insist on saying it 1,000 times. He sought to ensure that the affirmation penetrated once, with a vivid image and a real sensation of improvement. That is what the subconscious records. Not the words themselves, but the emotion bound to them. A word without emotion is a dead letter. A well-made treatment consists of 3 elements. Without them, no true result can appear. A clear image. You must see in your mind the result already accomplished, not vaguely or confusedly. You must construct an inner scene where you are in possession of what you desire. If you desire health, visualize your body in fullness. If you desire success, imagine the final scene where you are congratulated. Do not say, "I want to be healthy." See yourself running, breathing freely, smiling. Let the image be vivid, stable, and complete. Genuine emotion. This is not shallow enthusiasm. It is the emotional reality of what you are visualizing. If you see your bank account full, feel the peace that it brings. If you imagine reconciliation, feel the love restored. Emotion is the chemical element that activates the seed. Without emotion, there is no fertilization. That is why effective prayer produces a change of state. After a real treatment, you feel different, as if something invisible has already moved. Confidence in the law. Once you have treated, you must let it go. Do not return to the matter. Do not dig up the soil to see if the seed is sprouting. The law works in the invisible, in the hidden, in the silence. Thomas Troward affirmed that the mental law responds according to the pattern it is given. You provide the pattern when you treat, and then you must trust that the law will fill it. If you treat again out of doubt, you are cancelling the first treatment. The only reason to treat again is if it was done poorly the first time. If it was done well, you need no more. I recall the case of a young actor who longed for an important role. He visited me, desperate. I have affirmed my success. I have visualized, but nothing happens. I asked him, "And how do you do it?" He replied, "I do it every morning, every afternoon, every night. I visualize the applause. I see myself on stage." I asked, "And at what moment do you convince yourself that you already have it?" He fell silent. I told him, "That is what is missing. It is not the visualization. It is the certainty." I taught him to treat once. One vivid scene, one genuine emotion, and then release the matter. He never treated again. He simply remained in that certainty. 3 weeks later, he received an unexpected call from a casting director. The seed had sprouted. There are those who insist on using affirmations as if they were amulets. "I am rich, I am healthy," they repeat like automatons. But if in the depths of their soul there is doubt, anxiety, or impatience to see results, they are interfering with the process. They are not treating. They are begging. They are not sowing. They are scattering dust into the wind. Remember this law. One single affirmation, well made and planted in the fertile ground of certainty, surpasses 1,000 affirmations made in insecurity. Do not treat from need. Treat from possession. Do not say, "I want," say, "Thank you, for it is already mine." Do not seek to change your reality through struggle. Do it through fulfilled vision. Visualize as if it already were. Feel as if it already is. Give thanks as if you had already received. And above all, do not repeat. The subconscious does not need repetitions. It needs impressions. And one single impression, if charged with image, emotion, and faith, is enough for the law to begin its work. Like the mustard seed, which seems small but contains within itself the power of an entire tree, so too your treatment may seem brief, but it holds all the energy of the final result. Do it well. Do it once. And then let the law act. Chapter 4. Treatment by Silent Imposition. Thinking from, not about. Most people who fail in their mental treatments are mentally focused on what they wish to achieve, rather than inhabiting the fulfilled state internally. They are thinking about health, about money, about reconciliation. But thinking about something does not create, only thinking from something creates. The true law of mental treatment does not consist of contemplating the goal as something separate, distant or future, but of assuming from the inner present that it has already been accomplished. This is silent imposition. No words, no effort, only the awareness that it already is. The scriptures express this principle with absolute precision. Romans 4:17 declares, God calls the things that are not as though they were. Here the pattern is given. God, as the creative principle, does not wait to see something in order to affirm it. He does not describe external reality. He decrees it. He does not say light will exist if conditions allow. It is said, let there be light, and there was light. This is the key to all true treatment, not looking at the visible, but invoking the invisible as already manifested, not thinking about the result, but thinking from the result. Thinking from means internalizing the desired state. It means mentally and emotionally assuming that you are already where you wish to be, that you are already who you desire to be. Treatment by silent imposition uses no words. It does not formulate phrases, nor seeks to convince anyone. It simply enters the consciousness of being. That is why the name of God revealed to Moses was not a description but an affirmation. I am who I am, Exodus 3:14. That is, I already am, not I will be, not I wish to be. The I am is the starting point of all manifestation. Neville Goddard, one of the purest exponents of New Thought in its early stage, taught that imagination assumed with faith is the most powerful creative act that exists. He said, do not imagine what you desire, imagine that you already have it. This distinction, as subtle as it is radical, marks the difference between failure and miracle. Visualization alone is not enough. One must embody the image, live it internally, feel it fulfilled. The subconscious does not distinguish between physical reality and an inner image felt as true. If you inhabit the desired state with sufficient emotional conviction, your subconscious accepts it as fact and activates the invisible mechanisms that will bring it into the external world. This is what I call silent imposition. It is not about struggling with the mind, reciting prayers or crying out to heaven. It is simpler and deeper. It is about entering silently, visualizing clearly, feeling the emotion of fulfillment, and then settling into that consciousness as naturally as sitting in a chair, to remain in that state as if nothing else is necessary. In this act, you are imposing an image on your subconscious without words. You are engraving an idea without ink. You are issuing a command without sound. An entrepreneur told me he wanted to close an important deal, but each time he mentally treated the matter, he did it with fear of rejection. He visualized the meeting, but from desire, not fulfillment. I said, do not go to the meeting in your mind. Return from the meeting already closed. Walk from the final scene. I taught him to sit in silence, close his eyes, and visualize himself receiving the handshake, signing the contract, hearing the partner say, we are agreed. Most importantly, he had to feel the satisfaction as if it had already occurred. 5 days later, the partner called to sign the deal. It was not coincidence. It was the fulfillment of a silent imposition. Treatment by silent imposition operates through identity, not effort. It is not about repeating I am rich, but about living mentally as one who already is. Thinking, speaking, and acting internally from that reality, not as one who desires it, but as one who possesses it. This is the key of the I am method. It is not a magic formula, but a way of being. If you enter the consciousness of I am health, I am peace, I am abundance, and remain there without doubt, your subconscious accepts it as law and aligns with that truth. It is as if you were saying, this is my new identity, this is my nature. Many seek results without changing their state of consciousness. They remain as those who desire, but never become those who possess, and therefore do not receive. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. Matthew 13:12. This phrase, which may seem harsh, is not judgment. It is mental law. Only he who has the consciousness of having receives, not he who hopes to have, not he who repeats having, but he who is internally the desired thing. If you desire health, do not think about health. Think from health. Feel healthy. Act mentally as one who has already been restored. If you seek prosperity, do not imagine money as something distant. Live in your mind as one who already lives in abundance. It is not about pretending. It is about recognizing that the state exists and that you can inhabit it now. Pretending is false. Recognition is true. And truth always finds its way to manifestation. A young woman who wished to marry came to me. She had prayed for years, repeating affirmations about love. I asked, "And how do you live internally?" She replied, "As a lonely woman waiting for love." I said, "Then that is what you are still planting, loneliness." I taught her to change her inner state, to dress in the consciousness of love, to mentally prepare her home as if sharing life with another, to feel companionship before seeing it. 3 months later, she met the man who would become her husband. Not coincidence, it was the fulfillment of a silent treatment done with fidelity and emotion. Silent imposition is not just another method. It is the supreme method. It is the prayer of the mature soul. It needs no words because it knows. It insists not because it trusts. It waits not because it already inhabits. This is the prayer of the inner Christ, which sees the invisible fulfilled and calls it by name. Practice this method with reverence. Choose a situation. Retreat in silence. Close your eyes. Visualize the final fulfilled scene. Feel that you are there. Give thanks as one who has already received. Then open your eyes and live your day as one returning from the miracle, not as one still waiting for it. Do this sincerely, and your outer world will begin to reflect what you already are within. Think no longer about what you desire. Think from it. Live as if it has already occurred, because in truth, it has already occurred. Chapter 5. The Technique of Letting Go, How to Release Without Losing Faith. The greatest test of faith is not persistent prayer or fervent treatment, but the ability to release what has been treated and surrender to the law with complete trust. Letting go is not giving up or abandoning what is desired. On the contrary, it is affirming possession from the soul. It is the culmination of true scientific prayer. That is, it is already done, and the matter is not revisited. Letting go is not negligence. It is spiritual maturity that knows the seed sown will grow without supervision. Most people who practice mental treatment do not know the art of letting go. They want to control, monitor, and measure the growth. They wake up the next morning asking, "Has it borne fruit yet?" And with every doubt, they dig up the seed. If you sow a seed and then dig up the soil every day to see if it has sprouted, you not only prevent growth, but you also spoil the ground. Likewise, if after mental treatment you anxiously check whether the situation has changed, you are saying, "I do not trust the law." But the law does not respond to anxious vigilance. It responds to calm trust. Jesus taught this principle in one of his deepest parables, often misunderstood. Mark 4:26. This is what the kingdom of God is like. A man scatters seed on the ground. Night and day, whether he sleeps or gets up, the seed sprouts and grows, though he does not know how. This is the central teaching of the technique of letting go. The seed grows while you sleep, not because you watch it, but because you trust. The one who sleeps is the one who has let go. The one who rests is the one who has already received inwardly. This is the most spiritual stage of mental treatment because there are no words, no visualization, no affirmation, only rest, only peace. And that peace is not a superficial emotion. It is an inner sign. When the prayer has been accepted by the subconscious, a state of serenity without apparent cause arises. This is the invisible testimony that what was sown has already been received. You need nothing more. You should not add anything. A Roman centurion, a man of authority, came to Jesus, asking him to heal his servant. Jesus said he would go to his house. But the centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say the word and my servant will be healed." Matthew 8:8. Here is the spirit of letting go. He did not ask for proof, did not ask for confirmation. He only needed a word and rested in it. Jesus himself marveled at his faith and said, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." Because true faith does not watch over the miracle, it rests in it. Letting go is the inner rest that comes after well-done treatment. You have visualized, you have felt, you have affirmed. Now you must step back, Not from desire, but from the process. The farmer does not force the seed to germinate. The builder does not interfere with gravity. The sailor does not push the wind. Likewise, once you have imposed the mental image, you must release control. Do not try to help the law. Do not accelerate. Do not repeat, let it be. A woman came to me worried because her son was in prison. She had been practicing affirmations, visualizations, and prayers for months. She said, "But nothing happens. I am exhausted." I asked, "Have you ever let the matter go?" She replied, "How can I let go of something so important?" I explained why it was precisely important that she release it. You have already treated it, already planted the seed. Now rest. I asked her to make one final prayer with all her faith, visualizing her son free and at peace. Then she had to release it completely. No thinking about it, no talking about it, no doubting, only silently giving thanks. 2 weeks later, the case was reviewed and the young man was granted early parole. Rest accomplished what effort could not. Deep sleep is the perfect metaphor for letting go. When you sleep, you do not doubt that your heart will keep beating. You do not analyze whether your lungs will function. You simply surrender. Likewise, you must surrender to the treatment. Once the image is planted, allow infinite wisdom to do its work. It is not your role to dictate how or when. You do not manufacture the manifestation, you accept it. The subconscious, like the womb of creation, works in the hidden. When you let go, it acts. Some fear letting go because they believe it means renouncing what is desired. But there is no greater mistake. Letting go is not renouncing. It is declaring that what is desired is already yours. The one who watches still doubts. The one who lets go already possesses. If you abandon the treatment in peace, it is because you already know yourself the owner of the result. This is mature faith. It does not ask for signs, does not wait for confirmation, it simply rests. Many New Thought speakers have taught this law. Troward called it the passive principle of invisible growth. Mendoza spoke of letting go into God's hands. Neville Goddard insisted on letting the desire die so that the manifestation could be born. All speak of the same thing, the spiritual stage of letting go, where the ego no longer interferes, where the soul no longer struggles, where only the whisper remains. Thank you, for it is already done. Now practice this technique. Choose a deep desire. Perform a complete treatment. Visualize, feel, affirm. Then fall silent. Give thanks internally. Declare inwardly, "Thank you, for I already have it." From that moment, forbid yourself from treating the matter again. Do not repeat it, do not mention it, do not observe it, do not seek signs. Live as if you have already received. Rest, relax, for I tell you truly, the seed has already been planted and is growing while you sleep. Chapter 6. When the diagnosis is already given, rewriting the sentence in the mind. There is a special kind of mental and spiritual challenge that arises when the world has already delivered its judgment, when the diagnosis has been given, when the verdict seems sealed and unchangeable. It is then that mental treatment reaches its highest dimension, rewriting internally a reality that has already been confirmed externally. At this point, the person must not only apply the law of the subconscious mind, but do so with a conviction deeper than fear, stronger than visible evidence, more powerful than any prognosis. This is the realm of faith that cancels human decree. Many come to me with a word spoken by medical science, a lawyer, a bank, or their family. And they say, "I've been told there is no solution. The doctor said there is no hope. The judge has already signed the sentence. Everything has already been said." To all of them, I say the same thing. The only sentence your life obeys is the one you accept internally as truth. No diagnosis, however authoritative it seems, has more power than your consciousness if you choose another decree. In Isaiah 54:17, we read a declaration of power that must become your motto in these circumstances. "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and you will condemn every tongue that rises against you in judgment." This is not a passive promise, but an active instruction. Condemning every tongue means that you have the authority to reject any assertion that contradicts your inner law. If the conscious mind allows the diagnosis to become belief, the subconscious will accept it and execute it. But if the conscious mind disobeys the external decree and affirms another, the subconscious will imprint that new order, and the body, circumstances, and matter will obey that rewriting. A woman came to see me with terminal cancer. She was crying, afraid, already saying goodbye to life. I asked her, "What do you believe?" She replied, "I believe what the doctor told me." I told her firmly, "Then that will be your path. But if you choose another thought, another image, another sentence, your body will obey that law." I taught her the technique of denial and affirmation. First, deny the external sentence with authority, then affirm the new inner truth with certainty. For 2 weeks, morning and evening, she would retire in silence and say, "I do not accept this diagnosis. It has no power over me. Only divine life acts in my body." Then she would affirm, "The life of God flows through me, renewing every cell. I am healthy, I am free, I am alive in the spirit." 2 months later, her oncologist was astonished to see the complete remission of the tumor. She had obeyed another law. She had dictated another sentence. This technique is essential when an undesired visible form already exists. A diagnosis, financial ruin, a judicial sentence. It cannot be treated superficially. One must operate with spiritual precision. The mind must act as the supreme judge, overruling human decree and proclaiming a new reality. The process is always dual. First, mentally break the external decree. Second, establish a new decree of your own. Trobar taught that the mind is an operational center that can reject what is imposed and establish a new image. That is your authority as a creative being. No one can force you to accept a mental image. You can choose another, even if the world says otherwise. The law of the mind is that what you hold internally with sufficient faith will become external form, even if everything around you affirms the opposite. But wishing is not enough. You must affirm it as fact, and even more, you must deny the other fact with equal conviction. Do not fear saying aloud, "I do not accept this diagnosis." Do not fear affirming, "This decree has no power over me." Do not fear declaring, "I cancel this sentence by the authority of the Spirit within me." These are not empty phrases. They are high-precision tools that remove the emotional charge of the external decree. Once this is done, joyfully affirm what you do wish to establish. Say, "I live, I am healed, I flourish in the power of divine life." Not once, not 10 times, but with a certainty so deep it will resonate in every cell. Remember what is taught in the power of the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not reason. It acts on what is given to it as true. If you accept a sentence because it comes from a doctor, a judge, or an authority, the subconscious will take it as commanded. But if you choose another image with sufficient conviction, the law will respond to your decree, not by rebellion, but by design. A young man consulted me because he had been fired. He had been told he would never find work because of his age. "The world has closed the doors on me," he said. I replied, "Only you can close your future if you accept that phrase, but if you decree another sentence, another future will be created." I taught him to deny the condemnation. No word from another determines my provision. Then to affirm, "The Spirit guides me to the perfect job where I am valued and prosper." Within 10 days, he received a job offer in a new field. What changed? His mind, his sentence, his inner law. Do this today. Think of the sentence the world has already given you. A disease, a limitation, a condemnation. Write it down, read it, and then, in a solemn act, break it mentally. Say, "This word is not law for me." Then write your new sentence. Write it with authority, with love, with certainty. Read it like a judge issuing an irrevocable ruling, and every time doubt arises, return to your decree. Within you is a power greater than any external voice. It is your word, and your word is law for your subconscious. Never forget this. Every worldly sentence can be rewritten in your mind if you choose the authority of the Spirit within you. Do it. Do it well. Do it now. Chapter 7. The Power of Unspoken Thought. When Silence Creates. There is a level of mental creation that transcends words, a higher dimension where thought, without needing to be spoken, becomes living law. The human mind has the privilege of articulating affirmations, of expressing in language what it wishes to establish. But beyond the spoken word, there exists a force even subtler, more direct, more powerful, pure thought, unspoken thought, which acts as a silent, invisible, irrevocable spiritual decree. Many believe that if they do not say their affirmations aloud, if they do not repeat phrases over and over, the subconscious will not obey. But this is a rudimentary conception of mental law. The spoken word is only a vehicle, a tool. The operative reality is the mental image imbued with emotion and conviction. If you think with sufficient intensity and clarity, if you see and feel the image of the result as present and real, then the thought becomes a vibratory form, a creative seed, even if you have not made a single sound. The first chapter of Genesis reveals this truth with majestic simplicity. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. But we must read this with spiritual intelligence. God has no larynx, no vocal cords, no tongue. The Word of God is not physical sound. It is thought with purpose, divine intention, focused. It is the mental act of conceiving a reality with such purity of consciousness that it must manifest. That is why when you think in a sustained, clear, emotionally charged way, you are saying, "Let there be light," and the light comes. Thomas Trobar expressed this with scientific precision. Every visible form originates in an invisible mental image maintained persistently. He is not speaking of words, but of sustained images. Thought is the substance of creation, and emotional visualization is the purest method to shape it. Trobar affirmed that thought is a directed vibration. If that vibration is sustained without interruption, if the image does not dissolve or become contaminated with doubt, then the field of the invisible reorganizes itself and begins to embody that form in the visible plane. Emma Curtis Hopkins, known as the teacher of teachers in New Thought, taught that the soul has the power to contemplate good and make it real. Her practice was not about repeating phrases, but about contemplating with faith what she desired. She spoke of inner wordless thought, a state where the mind becomes still and sees the result clearly, while the heart feels it as true. This is the core of all silent prayer, an internal image felt as law. The technique is simple, but requires spiritual depth. It is not about watching an image in the mind as if watching a movie. It is about entering the image, becoming one with it. Visualize the final scene of what you desire, not as a spectator, but as the protagonist. If you desire health, do not see yourself from the outside running. Feel yourself running. Feel your muscles, your breath, the joy of moving without pain. If you desire abundance, do not see yourself counting money. Feel yourself free, satisfied, at peace with your provision. The key is not the object, but the inner state that accompanies it. A woman wished to restore harmony with her daughter, with whom she had not spoken for over 5 years. She came to me not knowing what to say, lacking the strength to pray. I taught her to say nothing, to sit each night, close her eyes, and visualize her daughter embracing her. No words, only image, only emotion, only the silent act of living the reconciliation internally. A few weeks later, she received an unexpected message. Her daughter wanted to see her. Nothing had been spoken, but everything had been created. Remember, the spoken word is a tool. Felt thought is the law. It is not necessary to vocalize an affirmation if you can see and feel it intensely. The subconscious does not need language. It responds to emotionally sustained mental patterns. If you hold that image without speaking, without repeating, but with certainty and stillness, you are creating in silence. And that creation is as real as the strongest word. Some people feel they cannot affirm verbally because they are weak, ill, or emotionally depleted. To them I say, you do not need to speak, you only need to see. You only need to feel. You only need to live the result internally as if it already were. Pure thought, when charged with faith, is the highest treatment. It is the treatment of the soul in communion with the source. It is the prayer of the spirit. Practice. Close your eyes, breathe deeply. Choose a true desire. Do not explain it, do not name it, just feel it. Live it as already fulfilled. Enter the scene, stay there. Do not push it, do not force it. Just remain. 1 or 2 minutes suffice if you are convinced. Do it each day, without words, without struggle, without expectation. Silence will carry it. For in truth, lived thought, pure, felt as real, creates more than 1,000 words. Well-directed silence is pure creation. Chapter 8. The spirit of peace as a sign that the treatment has been accepted. There is an internal, invisible yet certain sign that indicates with absolute precision that a mental treatment has been received and accepted by the subconscious mind. Peace without cause. This peace is not the kind that depends on favorable circumstances, nor the calm that arises from seeing a problem solved, nor the joy that comes from an anticipated outcome. It is a peace that descends like a silent mantle after a treatment has been properly performed, as if something deeper than your mind has already said, "It is done. Rest." This peace is the divine signal that the seed has taken root. Jesus expressed this with moving clarity in John 14:27. "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives." Here we are not talking about a superficial emotion or temporary relief. We are talking about substantial spiritual peace, originating from direct contact with the principle. It is the peace of the soul that has already placed its burden in the proper place and no longer needs to carry the weight of manifestation. It is the peace that comes not when everything is resolved, but when one has resolved one's inner stance toward life. Over the years, I have received hundreds of letters from people describing, often unknowingly, this state. They write things like, "I don't know why, but suddenly I stopped worrying. I haven't seen the result yet, but I feel I don't need to do anything more," or "An inexplicable calm came over me." These statements are not accidental. They are direct evidence that the prayer, treatment, affirmation, or visualization has reached its destination. That peace is the silent confirmation of the work. It has been heard, sealed, and received. One of the most moving accounts I have received comes from a woman in Ohio who suffered from a degenerative illness. After years of struggle, she decided to do a treatment using the method I teach: relaxation, clear visualization, affirmation with emotion. She did it just once with total dedication. She wrote to me, "That night, as I was falling asleep, I felt as if something invisible was caressing my chest. It was not a physical sensation, it was as if life itself was saying, 'Everything is all right.'" Weeks later, her symptoms began to subside. Within a month, the doctor could find no trace of the illness. But the most important thing was not the healing itself, it was that peace which came first, for the healing was a consequence. The peace was the sign. Why is it so important to recognize this peace as an indicator? Because the most common error of the mental practitioner is to keep treating more than necessary, seeking external signs, trying to make sure the law is working. But the only real sign is internal. When the treatment is received by the subconscious, no further effort is needed. The mind has done its work, the soul knows it, and the body rests. This peace appears in different ways. Sometimes it is a deep, spontaneous sigh, sometimes a change in the breath. Other times, an unexpected mental silence. It may also manifest as a lack of concern for the problem. The person simply stops thinking about it, not out of avoidance, but because there is no longer any conflict. The inner battlefield has dissolved. This peace cannot be forced, it is not achieved through willpower, it cannot be imitated. It is the natural fruit of effective treatment. It is like the calm that settles after an electrical storm. You do not need to create the blue sky. You only need to wait for the discharge to complete its work. Likewise, after a properly executed treatment, whether verbal, visual, or silent, the soul enters rest, and that rest is the spiritual certification that the law is working. I have advised many that once this peace is felt, they should not treat the same issue again. If they do, if they insist, if they interrupt the rest with doubts or unnecessary repetitions, they act from distrust. They are saying, "I do not trust the first treatment." But the law is perfect. Once the decree has been sown and the soul rests, the law will fulfill it. Intervening after peace is like trying to turn a wheel that is already spinning. The only result is interference with its harmony. I have also received accounts from people who, after years of prayers without results, decided to completely let go of the matter, surrendering it entirely, and the next day, or in the following weeks, they saw unexpected results. What occurred was not magic or luck. It was that they finally reached the state of peace, finally stopped interfering, and finally allowed the law to do its work without mental obstacles. And the peace was the sign. If you are working on a matter and suddenly feel that there is nothing more to say, nothing more to visualize, nothing more to insist upon, and without knowing why a profound serenity takes hold of you, stop there. That is the sign. Do not continue, do not push, do not go back. Enter that peace and stay there. This peace is not emptiness, it is presence. It is invisible action, it is response. Practice it now. Withdraw. Visualize, feel, give thanks, and then observe. If at the close of your treatment silence appears, if the body relaxes effortlessly, if the heart no longer cries out, then the prayer has been received. Do not wait for external signs. Recognize it internally. For truly I tell you, when you feel peace without cause, the treatment is already bearing fruit. Chapter 9. What to do while nothing seems to happen. Faith without anxiety. Most people who abandon mental practice do so not because the law has failed, but because their impatience defeated them. They treated, affirmed, visualized, prayed, and then watched anxiously to see if anything happened. When they saw no immediate results, they concluded, it doesn't work. But the law does not respond to impatience. It responds to deep understanding of the process. The interval between mental treatment and its external manifestation is not dead time. It is spiritual gestation. And like all gestation, it requires a specific attitude. Trust without anxiety, rest without doubt, action without vigilance. Jesus explained this simply and precisely in the parable of the mustard seed. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field. It is indeed the smallest of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is the largest of garden plants. Matthew 13, 31, 32. Observe the process. First comes the sowing, then the hidden growth, and only finally the manifestation. And what does the sower do in the midst of these 3 steps? Nothing but trust. He does not dig up the seed. He does not demand proof. He does not measure the growth. He simply waters, waits, and knows. That is the pattern of faith. To know without seeing. Yet many live as impatient gardeners. They plant today and want to harvest tomorrow. They treat once and expect immediate results. And when the external world does not move, they think nothing is happening. What they do not realize is that manifestation begins in the invisible. The subconscious, once impressed, works silently, hidden, deep within, the womb of creation. You cannot see what is already forming. You must not judge the process by appearances. Your duty is not to watch, but to nourish certainty. This period, seemingly silent, is the most delicate stage of treatment. It is when the soul must decide whether to remain in faith or return to the old habit of doubt. Here, many abandon the process and cancel the harvest, carried away by appearances, by the voice of the world, by comparison with others. But you, who have understood the law, must remember that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, that the fact you do not yet see does not mean the law is not working, and that the deepest movement is almost always invisible to the human eye. So what should you do while nothing seems to happen? How should you behave when everything appears unchanged? The answer is clear. Act as if it is already happening, but without anxiety. Give thanks in advance, speak naturally, live with peace. Anticipatory gratitude is one of the most powerful tools at this stage, because when you give thanks for something you do not yet see, you are declaring that you have already received it on the invisible plane. You are signing the spiritual delivery before receiving the physical package. You are aligning your consciousness with the law of fulfillment. Do this every day. Instead of watching to see if the miracle has manifested, say thanks because it is already on its way. Or better yet, thanks because it is already a fact in my inner world. You do not need to force it. You only need to hold the seed in your mind without disturbing it. Faith does not push. Faith sustains. Faith does not shout. Faith remains. A young man seeking employment came to me frustrated because, after a week of affirmations, nothing had changed. I asked him, "Have you given thanks for the job you already have in the invisible?" He replied, "How can I give thanks for something I do not yet see?" I explained, "Because the law has already accepted it. You do not give thanks for what you see, you give thanks for what already exists in the universal mind." He changed his attitude, stopped insisting, and began to give silent thanks each morning. Within a few days, he was called for an interview. In 2 weeks, he started working. It was not magic. It was law. Remember this, the sower does not accelerate growth with anxiety. He accelerates it with trust, sustains it with constancy, and celebrates it before seeing the fruits. For the moment he releases the seed into the soil, he already knows what will happen. He does not wait to see the plant to believe in the seed. He believes in the seed before seeing the plant. That is your model. Practice this discipline today. Identify the treatment you have done that seems to bear no fruit. Stop, Breathe and say, "Nothing is missing. Everything is in motion." Then give thanks, not once, but every time doubt tries to enter. Gratitude is the sign that you know something the senses have not yet perceived. It is evidence of your spiritual maturity. It is the music of the soul that has already received. For truly I tell you, when it seems that nothing is happening, that is when the most is occurring. But only the soul that knows how to wait will harvest the fruits. Chapter 10. The mistake of treating from urgency. How not to ruin the process. One of the most subtle but also most destructive mistakes in the art of mental treatment is treating from urgency. Urgency is not simply speed. It is not about wanting something soon. It is an emotional quality of anxiety that sabotages the silent operation of the law. It is a vibration of scarcity that says, unspoken, I do not have, I am in danger, I must solve this now or everything will be ruined. This vibration, even if wrapped in prayers, affirmations, or visualizations, contradicts the most essential principle of mental treatment, acting from the fulfilled state. Urgency is born from fear, and fear, as I have taught many times, is a negative form of faith. It is faith in evil, faith in lack, faith in misfortune. Therefore, when you mentally treat with urgency, you are not affirming what you desire, you are reinforcing what you fear. Even if you say, I want health, if you say it from the fear of illness, your true emotion is illness. Even if you say, I want money, if you say it from the despair of not having it, your real vibration is poverty. And as the law teaches, the subconscious does not respond to your words, it responds to your dominant feeling. Psalm 23 is a balm for this ailment. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Notice the structure of this statement. It does not say, I hope I will not lack. It does not say, I ask that it be given to me. It says with authority and calm, I shall not want. This is the language of spiritual certainty. There is no anxiety, no pleading, no hurry, only total trust in continuous provision. Those who enter this state do not treat with urgency, they treat with peace. I have seen many cases where urgency blocked healing. A woman, for example, was intensely treating for her daughter's recovery. She affirmed, visualized, prayed, but with tears, anguish, and fear, nothing manifested. She asked me, what more can I do? I replied, the only thing you have not done is rest. I taught her to step back, to let go, and to declare, the life of God is now working in my daughter. I trust. She began repeating this phrase gently each night before sleeping, without effort, without anxiety. Within a few days, her daughter's health began to improve. What changed? The emotional axis of the treatment shifted from fear to trust, from tense effort to creative rest. True treatment is born from the center, not from the periphery of agitated desire, but from the axis of identity. That is why the practice of I am is so powerful. When you affirm, I am already prosperous, I am already healthy, I am already loved, you are positioning yourself in the fulfilled state. You are not asking it to happen. You are acknowledging that it already exists in the invisible plane. This affirmation carries no urgency. It carries authority. And authority does not shout. Authority declares. When you feel urgency, do not treat. Stop, breathe, acknowledge the emotion. Do not deny it, but do not make it the basis of your prayer. Treat only when you are at peace. It does not matter if it is a minute later or a day later. What matters is not the speed of the treatment, but the charity of consciousness that sustains it. Treating from urgency is like sowing in dry soil. No matter how good the seed, it will not germinate. And if you have already treated from urgency, do not worry. You can correct it. Stop the cycle. Enter into silence. Repeat to yourself, all is well. The law is working. I already am. Breathe until the anxiety dissolves. Do not treat with a tense soul, treat with a quiet soul. For the subconscious does not obey pressure, it obeys conviction. One of the highest principles you can remember is this. Never treat when you are desperate. Wait, recover, rest, and then treat from true faith. Faith does not need to shout, does not need to repeat, does not need urgency. Faith knows. Do this now if you are under pressure. Close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath. Feel your body and say, I shall not lack. Everything is in its place. Then repeat silently. I already am. Stay there for a few minutes. Do not affirm anything else, just inhabit that state. When you return, you will be ready, not to beg, but to decree. For truly I tell you, treating from urgency spoils the seed, but treating from the inner axis makes it flourish. Chapter 11. When you cannot treat yourself, vicarious treatment. There are moments when the human soul is so wounded, so wrapped in conflict, or so weakened by emotion that it cannot treat itself. In such cases, when the faith falters, when the mind is confused, when the heart can do nothing but weep, the law remains available. The law of the subconscious mind is not limited to a single channel. It can act by radiation, by spiritual proximity, or by mental transmission from a clearer consciousness. This is the basis of vicarious treatment. One consciousness treats for another. A mind at peace establishes the decree that another mind in confusion cannot yet hold. Jesus illustrated this perfectly in the case of the centurion. Matthew 8:13 says, "Then Jesus said to the centurion, 'Go, let it be done just as you believed.' And his servant was healed at that very hour." Here it was not the servant who asked, not the sick person who treated. It was the centurion who moved the law, and the result was immediate. The servant's mind, weak, disoriented, or perhaps unconscious, was not an obstacle, because the law operates through the image and strengthens it. In this case, the centurion's mind was the conducting channel. This principle is not exclusive to biblical stories. Throughout my ministry, I have received hundreds of letters from readers who treated for relatives, friends, or even strangers and saw tangible results. What was essential in all these cases was emotional detachment. When you treat for another, you must not interfere with your personal desire, your anxiety, or your fear that it might not work. You must perform the treatment from the center of your being as a channel of universal law, not as someone who wants something for someone else. Vicarious treatment is not imposition, it is radiation. This requires spiritual maturity, because many who wish to treat for their children, partners, or loved ones do so from urgency, from anguish, from the desire to control the outcome. In that state, their treatment is not pure, it is tainted by fear, and as we have said, fear contaminates the image. Therefore, if you are going to treat for another, you must begin with yourself. You must center yourself, empty yourself of anxiety, and remember that you are not the doer, but the channel. Only then can you begin to visualize, affirm, or decree for another. The technique is simple but requires emotional precision. Enter into peace. Visualize the person in their perfect state, healthy, joyful, free, at peace. Do not dwell on details. Do not visualize the illness. Do not try to solve the problem. Only see the result already fulfilled. Gently affirm, "I see you free, I see you healthy, I see you whole." Finally, let go. Do not wait for signs, do not seek confirmation. You have planted a living image in the universal field, and the law will respond. I recall a man who wrote to me from New York. His sister was hospitalized for severe depression. He knew nothing about mental treatment, but read one of my books and decided to try. Each night, before sleeping, he visualized his sister smiling, surrounded by light, walking outdoors. He never told her, never prayed with her. He simply held that image in silence for a few minutes each day. 3 weeks later, she requested voluntary discharge. She had felt a new strength, as she described it, that did not come from him, but was with him. The brother did not convince her, he only held her image in his mind. The law did the rest. When you are too weak to treat, allow another to do it for you. Choose someone of firm faith and a calm heart. Ask them to treat for you as if you were the same. You do not need to speak much or explain everything. It is enough to say, "Hold an image of me at peace. Affirm me as healthy, free, in harmony." Then, even if you feel nothing, enter into rest. Trust that the law also moves through intercession, for truth does not need to be understood by the receiver to operate. It is enough that someone sustains it in faith. And if you are the one treating for another, remember the essential principle. Spiritual detachment. Do not try to impose a result. Do not act as savior. Do not assume another's problem as your own. Your only function is to hold the perfect image in the universal field, free from judgment, free from interference, free from need. Just as the sun shines without asking if it is received, so must you treat, simply emitting light and nothing more. Do it now if someone needs help. Enter into silence. Visualize that person in their perfect state. Say to yourself, "I see you whole. I see you free. I see you full of life." Then release, and do not intervene again with doubt. The law has heard. For truly I tell you, selfless love united with a clear image is one of the most powerful treatments that exist. And when you cannot, another can be your channel. The law is never limited. Chapter 12. Silent Confirmation. How to act after treatment. The final stage of any mental treatment does not consist of repeating the affirmation, monitoring the manifestation, or telling others about it. The final stage is to live without pretending, without forcing, without announcing, as one who has already received. This is silent confirmation, the inner attitude that shows the subconscious and the law that the work is already done, that the order has already been issued, that the decree has already been sown. It is the behavior of the soul that does not need external proof to know that the invisible is already on its way. Jesus expressed this with mathematical precision in Mark 11:24. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Notice the temporal structure of his words. First, believe that you have received it, then it will be yours. Internal confirmation precedes external manifestation. Treatment is not complete when you say the affirmation. It is complete when you live as if it is already done. This does not mean pretending. It is not about putting on an act. It is not spiritual theater. It is vibrational coherence. It means that your language, your body, your choices, your way of moving through life are aligned with the desired outcome, not with the lack that generated it. If you treat it for health, do not speak of symptoms. If you treat it for prosperity, do not speak of debts. If you treat it for love, do not speak of loneliness. Speak as one who has already been. Walk as one who already possesses. Decide as one who has already received. This coherence is the expression of a greater law, the law of correspondence, taught by Hermes Trismegistus since ancient times. As above, so below. As within, so without. This law is not abstract philosophy. It is concrete spiritual practice. It means that your outer world will accurately reflect what you hold without contradiction in your inner world. Thinking differently for an hour a day is not enough. You must be different all day. You must become that which you affirmed. The body is an instrument of this law. Your posture, your breathing, your tone of voice, everything communicates to the subconscious what you believe to be true. A woman treated for months to overcome social phobia. She affirmed in the morning, "I am free. I express myself with joy." But during the day, she avoided all conversation. She walked hunched, spoke softly. She did not understand why she was not improving. I told her, "Your affirmation is correct, but your body contradicts it." I asked her to walk as one who is already free, speak as one who is already at peace, act as one who already is. She did, though it was difficult at first. Within a few weeks, her anxiety began to dissolve. The treatment was sealed by the body. Words must also be monitored. It is not necessary to tell others that you are treating. You must not explain, justify, or defend your process. In fact, the more silent you are, the stronger your conviction. Quiet faith is the most powerful, not because it hides, but because it trusts. Great transformations happen in secret. The seed does not scream when it germinates. The miracle does not need to be announced. Flora appears without warning. Likewise, the transformed soul does not need to speak. Its mere presence is already a living affirmation. I previously recounted the case of a man who treated for his career promotion. He performed the treatment once, with intensity. Then he never mentioned it again. He did not speak of expectations. He did not check dates. He simply began to behave as someone with greater responsibility. His attitude changed, his punctuality, his precision, his way of dressing, his energy. No one knew what he had done, yet within 2 weeks he was called by his boss. "We want to offer you a new position." It was not coincidence, it was correspondence. He had already extended it internally. The world merely mirrored the new pattern. After your treatment, do not check again to see if it is working. That reveals doubt. Nor begin adjusting, changing, or trying new techniques. That shows insecurity. Do not try to convince anyone. Do not look for signs. Do not beg for approval. Maintain your faith, give thanks in silence, walk with certainty, and let the law fulfill its function. Do it now. Choose a matter you have already treated. Examine your words, observe your body, evaluate your behavior. Are you living as one who has already received? Or are you still waiting, with the emotion of one who doubts? Correct this not with effort, but with awareness. Breathe, straighten your body. Think naturally. This is already done. I already am. Then act, not to prove anything, but because this is your new state. For truly, I tell you, the deepest faith is not heard. It is seen in the way one walks. It is felt in presence, confirmed in silence. When you act as one who already is, without speaking of it, without expecting signs, without needing explanations, then the treatment has been sealed, and the law will take care of everything else.